The pedigree of the Belgian FAL is well known across the world, usually and lovingly referred to as the right hand of the free world, seeing use in Rhodesia and against the communists across the planet. But little do people know, it was actually used by the Israelis at one point, and we have right here the Israeli model of the FAL.
Still going.
We have a helper on range. This is Brutus, our range puppo. He's a good boy. So, the Israeli FAL. So this entered in actually Israeli service in 1955, and it wasn't a super long-lived rifle by the Israeli standards. And it actually went out of service in 1973, but it did see use in active conflicts in the Middle East. So it saw conflict use in the Suez Canal crisis, the Yom Kippur War, and the Six-Day War as well. And its use in that environment, one thing that the Israelis actually determined was that this rifle wasn't that equipped to handle the sandy, dusty environment that it was actually being used in. Now, the Israelis, when they were looking at entering this into service, actually got the rights, I think about 1953, to produce the FAL in country, so in Israel proper. So Belgium wasn't actually producing these for them. And there's some notable changes that they did to the design. And first off, they went to wood furniture. And if you come in close right here, they actually went to a clamshell design on the handguard itself and did a bimetal. So the front portion of it being metal, the back portion of it being that wood. And they ditched the polymer handguard, which in the early models of the FAL was kind of a cheaper, thin polymer. And the idea was that this was supposed to help in that sandy, dusty environment by having the clamshell effect on the handguard. That way, during inclement weather and drying out, that the wood wouldn't split and crack. And this is neat. One thing that they did to reinforce that, if you can come in close here, you kind of see these wavy lines right here. And look, there's already a crack right there. These wavy lines is corrugated steel that's running through the handguard to help reinforce that. Now, beyond the wood handguard and furniture, some other couple notable switches that they did was they switched out the takedown pin to a takedown vertical lever. We're not going to show that because the YouTube gobs don't like it when we do that. And this makes takedown and field stripping and cleaning of the rifle very simple. And they went to a more of an AR style safety selector that's a lot easier to manipulate with your thumb while you're operating that gun. Additionally, and controversial, if you might say, is that they actually had a forward assist on the charging handle itself. And how that actually functions is that if you have a slight out of battery and we're trying to force it in, which I don't know why you'd ever want to force a round that doesn't want to go into chamber, but you would actually push in on the charging handle itself and then push it forward to help that forward assist get that round into battery. Now, another feature that we have on it is our bolt release is right next to our magazine release. The magazine release, much like an AK, is a hinge system with just a little paddle lever there, and then our bolt release being right next to that. So as you go to reload, you can just reach right up with your thumb and get that bolt straight into battery.
So one of the most interesting features about this FAL variant in particular is the fact that it has an adjustable gas block. And typically you'll have an adjustable gas block where you get a little bit of gas in or a little bit more gas out. This one has a setting where you have completely zero bleed off whatsoever, and that's because this is rifle grenade capable. You'd slam a blank in there and pop it, boom, you get that nice little noob tube sound effect, and you get to blow people to smithereens. It's great.
Now, how's the trigger on an FAL? Well, there's not much change in the trigger between the Israeli and the Belgian actual versions of this. And so we flip it off a safe. You have a little bit of take up. That's about it, maybe a couple millimeters. And then that brake. The brake is heavy though. And I would dare say AK triggers, much better. And it's a heavy reset too on that too. I don't know if you can hear that. Heavy reset. So, I mean, when you really think about it, it's a proper battle rifle, right? So we got a heavy trigger, heavy rounds in this thing, and let's go ahead and throw some rounds down range, huh? Go ahead and loosen that up a little bit. I mean, if you really wanted a modernized version, and this one actually is from DSA. DSA actually makes their own modernized version of the FAL, the OSW, I believe it's called, which is a pretty awesome platform just because it has some of the modernized features where you can get shorter assaulter barrels, you can get your Picatinny rails on the top, some M-lock on it, so you can start to actually throw attachments on it. But if you're going for something historical, something like just a traditional FAL or this Israeli version, or the Hebrew hammer as they call it,
God damn, brother, you kicking ass.
The Shabbat Slammer, the circumcised shooter, whatever some of the Shalom shooter, the Hanukkah hunter. You still can't go wrong with a full-size 7.62 by 51. There's something to be said about the right hand of the free world with that, just that proper battle rifle cartridge. And so here it is. This is our 7.62 by 51 or 308 for the Imperial system. And so it, you know, we got a heck of a lot more powder behind that, a heck of a lot more weight behind that bullet. And this is going to make it a lot better at reaching out and touching somebody over a longer distance in compared with those intermediate cartridges that you say with a standard rifle that you would get issued in the military from the United States or a lot of our NATO allies, where you're hitting 5.56 and or even Warsaw Pack 5.45 by 39. But that being said, I do completely understand when it comes to the modern conflict why we've moved away from larger platforms and the larger battle rifle calibers like this. You know what, modern combat, what it's really taught us is that, you know, the most amount of rounds accurately downrange, that's what's going to help you win fights. And if we can lessen the load on an individual soldier, then we can actually carry more ammunition into that gunfight. So accurate, large amounts of fire is a good thing. And these certainly have that stopping capability and the ability to go the distance, right? We can definitely reach out to 1,000 yards, no problem, and be relatively effective with this thing, even with iron sights. So, you know, little talk on calibers and everything as it is, you know, why NATO kind of moved to the 5.56. And granted, this is a NATO cartridge, 7.62 by 51. You really don't see the proper battle rifle anymore in a lot of modern conflicts. They're more relegated to positions of like DMRs and things like that, let's say like the M14. And even then, I don't think the M14 is used a whole lot anymore either. So, hella fun rifle, and I always wanted an FNFAL, and we're borrowing one. And actually, this one's on loan from our good friends at 2FXC Tactical in New Prague, Minnesota. So shout out to them, because this is a fun platform from DSA.
And so ultimately, this gun with all of its charm was replaced in 1973 by the Galil and the M16, because everyone wants to be unique until an AR gets involved, and then everyone just ends up going to an AR platform anyway, because, you know, it just does everything better. Hate that safety. It's like way over there. I can barely hit it. So this is the light variant, or the Romont. They had another variant, which was the Macliette.
That's good enough.
It sounds French, therefore it's probably wrong. That had an integrated bipod and a heavier barrel and whatnot. This is, of course, just the more standard version. Honestly, it's an FAL. Like, it's not like anything like life-changing. I think they made some good changes for the environment that they were going to be using it in, but I preferred the older, you know, the Rhodesia look, you know, because it's hard to beat, because it's better. And they ultimately moved away from it because the short stroke piston system did not function well in a super sandy, gritty environment. I think more guns need to have carry handles again. I mean, granted, you know, we're using a lot of AR platforms that are lighter, don't necessarily need it, but we kind of stopped doing things for the vibe, and I think that's what's wrong with the world now, is we don't have like the vibe anymore. Everyone goes for like this high speed, lightweight, you know, freaking high octane, whatever.
All right, so the Israeli FAL. I personally think this is a neat collector's piece. If you like DSA and you want an FAL, and maybe you already have a regular Belgian FNFAL, I think this is a cool one to pick up. That being said, I would prefer myself the original FNFAL, especially if I'm going to get it from DSA. What are your thoughts, man?
If I had an FAL, I would probably only have the FAL. I don't think I would be one of those people that has like 8 different variants from 8 different countries of the same gun. I'm very much a you know, get the exact one you want and then move on to a different platform, unless it's an AR, because then there's, you know, oh, I can have a 300 blackout AR, I can have a 7.62, whatever, you know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I feel like some of the people that are going to be hating on this one are just kind of grasping at straws.
I think some of the hate's going to come into the comment section, probably from the fact that it's a certain country of manufacture. But we're looking at it from the historical context and everything. It's an awesome battle rifle.
Rhodesia did it better.
Yeah, and that's where I would go. Why do I want a regular FNFAL with the polymer, even if it's just like a parts kit and cheap polymer? Because I can spray paint that and get some baby poop brown on there,
You know,
and make it some Rhodesian camo to match our Rhodesian silkies that we got too. So, you know, I like it in the end, but there's definitely a legit reason why we've kind of steered away from those battle rifles, and the tactics make sense and it's sound. And it's kind of funny that now the US is still courting and now shortening the spear and bringing back, you know, heavier battle rifle cartridges to get that pressure, 80,000 PSI or whatever, that pressure to crack armor hilltop to hilltop. And you look at like Ukraine, and where are we again?
Nothing like trying to fight a war with battle rifles in a trench that's, you know, 2 feet wide. It's great.
Trenches are back on the menu, boys, right?
Why would we have a full 18-inch, you know, anything over 16 is just not a viable option.
Otto von Bismarck is spinning in his grave right now.
Well, yeah, it's just, it's the whole thing.
Well, and drones, that's right, you know.
Yeah, the IEDs come from
the IEDs are flying, which that as an EOD guy, that's like a nightmare. It's like, hey, you know the IEDs you used to disarm? They're flying now.
Yeah, no, I'm good. No
like,
thanks.
I'm glad I'm out at this point, so.
No thanks.
Anyways, it's Mike and Jade with Aegis Defense Solutions. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Remember, stay prepared, not scared. God bless and good night.